Hey, it is Odyssey Sports and the Sporting Tribune. And our next guest, look, there's plenty of things to love here on the program. And one of them is we love hustlers. And as we gear up for March Madness, of course, here in Las Vegas, we get to host a couple of the games for the men. And then our women, our UNLV Lady Rebels, are in the tournament as well as they take on Michigan tomorrow. And when I speak on hustlers, though, you can see our next guest on ESPN's NBA coverage. She's a rival on the LA Sparks. She's the vice president of the Players Association, and that's just a few of the things. Chiney Ogumike joins us on behalf of Wells Fargo. First and foremost, thank you so much for making some time for us. And I want to start off by asking you, what are some of the worst ways that people have mispronounced your name?
Yeah, I've gotten first of all, pleasure to hang out. I've gotten the chimney. I think chimney is the worst. It's the autocorrect version of my name. Like, hi, chimney. I'm like, so, what? There's no M in my name.
This is
But
not
that's what
Christmas.
people, yeah, I know, right? This is not Christmas time, even though my presence is a present. But, yeah, that's probably the worst way. But also, by the way, I love this idea of hustlers and shouting out the UNLV Lady Rebels because their head coach is my former teammate at Stanford, Lindy LaRock, and she has done a tremendous job. Had a baby, came back, and just won another conference title, and now they're dancing. So shout out to Lindy, Lulu, I love you.
Hey, look at the way the universe works. She was just on the show yesterday. And we'll
Oh, was
get
she?
to yes, so we'll get to the Rebels here in just a second. But before we get into all the basketball stuff and everything you're doing with Wells Fargo, let's bring up that point about hustlers again. Because like I said, you are one. I admire that. No matter what anybody's doing, what industry they are, like you got to hustle. You got to know more. You got to know a lot of things to like be successful, right? And for you as a basketball player, like everyone who grew up loving basketball, what is one of the slogans we used to post on social media? Ball is life, right? But for a lot
Yep.
of people, they don't take that outside of the court into other things in their life. And I'm just wondering for you, whether it's that hustle, that motivation, or just that thought process, where did it really start with you to go into all these other areas and branch out like you have?
Yeah, I think it honestly started when I was a kid because our parents were always like, academics is key. And so, like, even though we fell into basketball and fell in love with it, we had to always be on top of our academics. And you know how it is, like, when your parents tell you things, you don't really listen. You like half listen. Well, when I got to Stanford, former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, Dr. Condoleezza Rice, she was my mentor for my major, international relations, and she
It's
told me
amazing.
virtually the same thing she told my parents told me. She was like, Sinead, just because you are a top tier athlete on our premier women's basketball team, that doesn't mean you can't be a top tier student in class. And so I was like, oh, like we are capable of more. That's when I really got that more than an athlete mentality and really committed myself, immersed myself into my school experience while also going to 3 Final Fours, and it was a blast. And then now as a pro, I dealt with a lot of injuries early on in my career. That was a lot of adversity. And my dad also said, and it comes back to my parents, every disappointment is a blessing if you allow it to be, if you have that perspective. And
Hmm.
so even though I was disappointed to be sidelined for multiple seasons, I just kept working and hustling and really became a yes woman where I said yes to a lot of opportunities. And those opportunities manifested into uh, a great career. And now I have careers, plural, and I feel like I'm living my wildest dreams.
Okay, first off, a shout out to your dad with the real life bars, okay? Number two, shout out to you with the multiple careers plural bars. That is amazing. And let's get into some basketball and on the court because March Madness is here. As the tournaments start for the men and women's, it's going to be absolute chaos in the best possible way. And like I said, you are here on behalf of Wells Fargo. So if you just let us know what's going on, how is Wells Fargo going to make this tournament experience better for us fans that are going to be tuned in all weekend?
Yeah, I mean, if it's funny. We're in a very virtual COVID world. Sorry, my work phone is going off. I just pulled up to ESPN. We're in a very virtual, world now after 2020. And, I just love that Wells Fargo has created, AR filters that allow you to feel like you're back on campus, back in the game, back in the arenas where I fell in love with the game at a whole nother level. I was having fun. Like, I was able to just, use my phone and like zoom into Maples Pavilion where the tree was and just show people my school pride. And so, as we watch March Madness, if you want to flex on your friends or your family when your school wins or you're trying to show who you support, Wells Fargo has created a way for us to feel connected throughout the country.
Hey, look, if you want to stunt on your Instagram story, get that AR filter from Wells Fargo, and it's gonna look amazing. And you brought up your Final Four trips in your collegiate career, and like it's just one of these aspects that I don't think people think about. Which is why I'm gonna ask you if there's one big thing, what do you think is the most difficult part about playing in the tournament?
Ooh, the most difficult part is that you only have one shot. Like, you have one shot to get everything right. And so, like, honestly, I think teams that have losses actually are more valuable come tournament time, because those losses reset you in a way that holds you humble and holds you accountable. I'll never forget, I lost my final Pac-12 tournament game my senior year to USC. And while that was heartbreaking to not win the Pac-12 tournament, even though, like, we had won every game in the Pac, I think, or most of them that year, that loss set us up for a Final Four run because we corrected a lot of our mistakes after that loss. And so, yeah, the biggest thing is, like, literally you've got one shot to give it your all, and to, it's honestly, it's like the best. Honestly, it's the best feeling in the world. Like, just to be able to compete in something so big, with so many, support, whether it's your family and friends or the fans, it's one of the biggest moments a hooper can have. And so I cherish those. I cherish those for sure.
Nah, and that's why we were so excited about the Lady Rebels and kind of hopefully a Cinderella run that's coming. But I'm going to save them for the very end. I want to transition into the WNBA. Of course, you're on the Sparks. In my opinion, you guys are putting, a great team together with all these pickups here in the offseason. Of course, a new head coach as well. But I have to ask you, with this offseason and free agency, the narrative has kind of been there of the WNBA now entering the super team era. We're here in Las Vegas. We have our Aces. In New York, the Liberty putting their team together as well. As someone not on either of those teams, is this just serving as motivation?
No, I mean, honestly, like, it doesn't faze me, because maybe since I'm an NBA analyst too and I've covered super teams, I'm like, super teams are great, but super teams have a lot of pressure. And, it's hard to win as a first-year team as a super team, right? Like, LeBron James goes to Miami. They didn't win that first year. So, like, it took years for the Warriors to become who they are. And it took years for the Aces to get to this title, right? And so many number one picks and, like, the right environment and the right players. So, as a player of the Sparks, I don't focus on others. I focus on myself and my squad. But it is going to be fun, because I do love that it's getting more and more people interested in the W, and that's what we're all about. So if you're here for the super teams, that means you're here for the W. So that's a win-win. But I'm here for the Sparks. You know what I'm saying? But it's fun. It's fun to see people get excited about that.
I'm gonna have to lower that part where you said I'm here for the Sparks for our radio fan base. I ain't trying to get yelled at. I'm in enemy territory.
I'm here
right
for the Sparks, purple and gold. You're hearing it loud and clear. Sparks.
Yeah, I love it. And I guess I want to talk to Vice President Chiney right here for this next question, because bringing up the Liberty, bringing up the Aces, to me, being able to cover the league this past year was a blessing. And kind of as I look at the league as a whole, I feel like there's this just weird influx of, there are now owners who are entering the league and buying these teams that are strictly like they bought the team with a purpose. They have intention. They're spending resources. They're spending money. They want to compete. They want to win. And maybe some of the rules and some of just the way the things are set up with the league aren't caught up to speed. I know this is weird, and the question is like weirdly phrased, but do you feel kind of some of the same things?
Yeah, I think, the thing is when I was vice president, in 2020, we set the foundation with the new CBA for a lot of this growth, meaning more stability. Now, we knew we had a long way to go. And I think it's tough because a lot of times people think what we want is what the society hears. What society hears is, the crazy stuff, meaning like, oh, the players want paid equitably as the NBA. Equitably as in relative to our business, not the exact amount that the NBA players have. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
I think it's always keeping the main thing, realizing that we have paid maternity leave, which is tremendous. We've upped our salaries double. And then we also have abilities for players to make money in the off season. Like, that's a good foundation for our league to really take off and keep pushing right now. And so I think we're moving in the right direction. I think the players and the owners are applying the right pressure, and the system will change to benefit, more of us. And I'm excited to see the next few years of the W, because I think we're going to make tremendous steps in our growth.
No, absolutely. We're seeing it firsthand with the Aces here in Las Vegas. Chiney Ogumike joining us on behalf of Wells Fargo as March Madness is underway. And I guess I got one more question for President Association Chiney, also Sparks member Chiney. I wouldn't be doing my job if I don't ask you this question. Obviously, you guys acquired Dearica Hamby from a trade. I'm just curious, before Dearica laid out what she experienced on Instagram about her time with the Aces before it ended and she got traded, did you have any conversations with her? Did she reach out to you, or did you guys talk after the trade as teammates? Have you guys not talked yet? If you could kind of let us in on what's going on with that as much as you can, because obviously there is an investigation with the Aces going on right now.
Dearica has been one of my closest friends in the league. I love her dearly, and I'll just keep it at this. I've been in touch with her throughout the whole time. She is my fam. I've got her back, and, I'm lucky to have her as a teammate. So she's been someone that has, been family to me this whole time. I've been hooping since 2014, and, I've loved watching her journey. She's one of the most resilient players in the W, as people know, on the court, but she's also resilient off the court. And I feel lucky to be her teammate. So I love having Dee here.
And we wish her the best. We're going to miss her this season. And before we get you out of here, again, Wells Fargo, get your AR filters, represent your teams.
And go Lady Rebels, go Lindy LaRock.
That is exactly what I wanted to ask you. So I don't know if you want to do predictions. Do you want to tell us, have you been watching the Lady Rebels? How do you feel about this, mid-major team really making some noise these past couple of seasons?
Yeah, Stanford all the way, even though we've had some bumps, some bruises the last few weeks. But Stanford all the way. And then I'm here for Lindy and the Lady Rebels to get as far as possible. So, those are my two teams I'm rooting for. But and I think South Carolina is a tremendous squad as well. I love what they've done for the game. I love Caitlin Clark. There's so many players. I mean, LSU has been oh my God, so much fun to watch as well. There are a lot of teams that I care about. But Stanford is obviously my pick, per usual. And then I have a near and dear place in my heart for the Lady Rebels, because Lindy has done a tremendous job with them. So those are my picks.
I know we were supposed to do this on video, but I think the signal got a little messed up. I think Chiney said she wants UNLV Lady Rebels to win the whole thing. We couldn't agree more with her.
I wouldn't be mad at it. That's a win-win. Stanford is winning by default if that happens.
There it is. Much love to Wells Fargo. And Chiney, thank you so much for the time. Best of luck and keep hustling.
My pleasure. Thank you.